thank you for listening today on Matters of Substance. This is Carly, your host, and we also have our other host, Caitlin.
Good morning.
Good morning, Caitlin. So we today have a very special guest. We have Stephanie Lenkos from Positive Approach to Teen Health. Positive Approach to Teen Health is one of the agencies that we partner with here a lot at the Hub Coalition of Porter County. And we spend a good time chatting with their director, Donna Golub. And we are just excited to have Stephanie here today to share a bit about what programs you all have, what's going on at PATH, Positive Approach to Teen Health. And so I'd love to just kind of dive in and get started. Stephanie, why don't you share a little bit about, I know that you're pretty experienced in the field. Why don't you share a little bit about your experience, and then maybe we can talk about PATH for a bit, and then mentoring as a whole.
Good morning. I have quite a variety of a background of experience working with youth. I started at a young age working as a counselor in training. I went on to get my degree in recreation administration, leadership development. I have worked with outdoor education, experiential education, running summer camps, and before and after school programming. The last number of years, I have worked for PATH when I decided to return to the work field after having children. And I joined them just as they got a new grant to start developing and creating a peer-to-peer mentoring program. And that gave me the opportunity to jump on board and be a part of the building blocks for a brand new curriculum to work with high school students.
Amazing. So part of the grant that you created, then that would be, it's called Relentless, right?
Yes, and we are currently on the second version. So this is Relentless 2.0 that we are working under for this current grant. The first grant that we wrote Relentless under ended last year, and that was a SRAE grant, which was a sexual risk avoidance education grant. And then now we have a 5-year grant to be rigorously evaluated for medical accuracy. And that is a PRIUS grant, which is the Personal Responsibility Education Innovative Strategies Program.
So before we move on, I'm going to pull this a little closer to you because I keep missing your audio just a tiny bit. Yeah. And then, because if our audio, we have to be directly here, or if we go like this, we miss it. So no, it's okay. I just want to make sure we're not missing your words because I've got a couple where I'm like, oh. Okay, so you mentioned that you're in the second phase here of the Relentless program. So you talked about sexual illiteracy. Was that what you said? Can you?
Sexual risk avoidance education was the first grant that we were operating under.
Okay.
And so the mentoring program was designed to educate students in sexual risk avoidance education, among other topics. And primarily, we focus on healthy and unhealthy relationships, suicide awareness, social emotional learning, but we also use that to be a stepping stones into topics like contraceptives, sexual boundaries, relationship boundaries, sexual transmitted diseases and infections, and using mentors and mentees to have discussions so that they can learn and figure out what is the best choices for them moving forward with their lives.
So when you talk about a mentor-mentee relationship, you mentioned peer-to-peer earlier, can you tell us a little bit about that, what that relationship looks like and why it's important that you're using a peer mentor-mentee?
So we actually use a 3-tiered approach to the mentoring program. So there's peer mentor coaches, which are the staff at PATH, such as myself, and we work with the mentors, which are juniors and seniors, which are selected. They apply and they interview for their positions at each high school that we work with, and we train them. And throughout the program, we train them for each session as well and the topics that we'll be discussing. The PATH staff deliver the core content, and then the mentors, they lead activities and discussions with the mentees, and the mentees are the freshmen at the high schools that we're working with. And so this way, the freshmen have individuals at their school on a daily basis that they are building a community with, relationships with, and someone that they can go to and talk to if they have questions or about anything, not even necessarily the topics that we discuss in class, but just their high school life and experience in general.
So I think that we've learned as preventionists that a mentor relationship is really impactful as a piece of prevention. Some of the primary factors that contribute to prevention are community connectivity, having relationships with people that are positive. And so it sounds like with what you guys are doing, you are reducing the risk of substance use based on some of those elements that are part of this mentoring program. In addition to having a mentor, they also have the leadership at PATH and the staff there that are giving them positive role models and giving them more connectivity to the community. So it sounds like a really great program in terms of when we're talking about prevention of substance use, it kind of all correlates together. And so I know that's one of the reasons that we have you guys with us on the coalition, and because we all are kind of doing that work of trying to help the youth in the community. But I wanted to ask, so you talked about that you have three topics that you teach the mentors about. And so what does like a typical class or group look like with your program? What are these students talking to each other about? What are some of the impactful things that you guys have observed and heard? And
So once a week, we meet with the mentors and we prepare them for that upcoming week's lesson. And the lessons, as I mentioned before, have a variety of topics. We do also talk about the impact of alcohol, drugs, and tobacco on the various choices we make when it comes to relationships and boundaries and our own personal well-being. And then once a week, the mentors come into the freshman class, and they are paired with no more than 5 mentees. We try to keep about a 4-to-1 ratio of mentor to mentee. And they get into their groups that are assigned after our first couple of classes. We allow them time to get to know each other before they're given an actual mentor to work with, so that they're part of the selection of their mentors. And they start each class with an activity called Peaks and Valleys, where they share the high and the low points of their week or since the last time we met. And we actually give them quite a bit of time to do that so that every student has time to share what is going on. That also allows time for students who might have some issues or concerns going on to have that interaction with their mentor. And then after the peaks and valleys, we go into the lessons topic. There's the peer mentor coaches deliver core content. We do activities and discussions throughout that core content that then the mentors are delivering with the mentees. And we've given them all of their materials ahead of time. They have binders they bring to class with all of their discussion questions. We never, ever have them just walk into the darkness. They're completely prepared for everything that they go into. And then we also use an app called Remind that allows mentors to be connected to us, the peer mentor coaches, and each other. And it's a way for them to also let us know if a mentee has reached out to them with any sort of concerns or distress. And it's a way for the mentors to communicate and create their community. And it's a way for us to distribute material and content just in case someone maybe missed class or lost their paper or something like that.
so you said that there are the peer mentor coaches as well, which it sounds like that's like at staff level for PATH. What's the process for training the coach and then the mentor?
So the peer mentor coaches, they are full-time PATH staff, such as myself. And I actually run the trainings for the staff and the mentors, along with any other staff that have been working with the program. So a peer mentor coach, when they're brought on board, they go through all of the traditional staff onboarding and training, and then they do. They sit down with myself and anyone else who is currently on staff in the program, and we talk through all of the program. We run through all of the lessons one-on-one. We do what we call teach backs, where we teach to each other the lessons so that we can become familiar with them. And then when we start to go into the classes, typically speaking, a brand new peer mentor coach will shadow a current peer mentor coach for a period of time until they're comfortable to take on a class by themselves. The mentors, they go through a 1 to 2 day training, and we focus on building community with them, doing leadership and team building activities, and we also spend a good deal of time on suicide awareness and prevention, and what it means to be a mandated reporter, because as peer mentor coaches and mentors, we are all mandated reporters. And we talk through what the program looks like on a large scale and then on a daily scale for them. And that gives anyone the opportunity as well to be like, you know what, maybe this isn't the best idea, I'm not so interested, or, oh, hey, I have some other friends that might be interested in doing this, can I bring them in to talk to you? And usually that's where we filter in and out any potential mentors that want to be in the program or don't before we even start.
So you have a pretty extensive selection process, it sounds like, or introduction process. And I would assume, based on just the knowledge that we have about mentoring, that you have to be very selective on who you choose, because you're asking them to be involved in these younger students' lives. And so is there anything in particular that you guys have to do to just make sure that you're keeping a nice, solid group of older students that are going to be good influences on the young ones?
So to start the selection process, we work with the school's administration. They know their students better than we do. And they usually pull a group of students based on the number of mentors that we need. We recommend they go about 10 to 15% over, just because some kids will decide that this isn't the best fit for them. We encourage our schools not to pick just their top students, because you don't have to be a straight A student to be a really good mentor. Mentees need to see that other kids have tough times doing stuff too, and that not everything comes easy for everyone. Once the school has made a selection of a core group of individuals, those juniors and seniors are asked to fill out an application. We have created a mentor application that looks very similar to a job application, and they're asked to fill in general information, but then they're also asked to fill in experiences and to answer some questions about mentoring, why they would want to be a mentor, what they bring to the table. Once those applications are completed, we then set up either individual or small group interviews. It kind of depends on the school and the time we have available to us to get through, because some schools we have 80 plus mentors. So it's a large group of mentors to work with. And we do a basic 15-minute job interview. So all those questions that you get asked in a preliminary job interview, we're doing a very similar experience with them. We think it's important that mentors apply for the position and they go through a conversation with us as to why they want to be a mentor, give them an opportunity to ask any questions of clarification, and allow us to explain the program in a little bit more detail than maybe their administration did. And this sets them up for success also further down the line, because at some point, every one of these mentors, if they haven't already, will be interviewing for schools, technical programs, jobs, and other things going forward in life. And so this is setting a foundation also for the mentors to have that experience and put themselves together and be professional.
Yeah. How many schools do you guys have this currently running in?
We will be running in up to 16 schools. However, Relentless will not be in all of them because this current grant is being rigorously evaluated for the outcomes and based on medical accuracy. We have to have a treatment group and a control group. And so the control group is a financial program that we are using through Visa, the credit card company. They have a curriculum, and we've used that and adapted it slightly to fit into our classroom times, which is usually about 45 minutes. And we call that program Money Momentum. And so for every one Relentless student, we have to have 1.5 to 2 Money Momentum students so that we can compare results at the end of the programming. The other piece to this program, unlike any of the others at PATH right now, we are a full school year program. So we run the entire length of the school year. So when it comes to the mentors as well, this is a big commitment. This isn't just a couple of weeks or a month or two that they're committing to. They're committing to an entire school year. So we do run it's 25 sessions of programming, including our pre and post surveys.
That's a lot of time.
So about how many hours a week do they have to be available for like the mentoring program once they become a mentor?
The mentors do up to an hour and a half each week. They do 45 minutes of class time with their mentees, and they do up to 45 minutes of preparation and training for each class. And the mentees do 45 minutes a week, approximately. Some classes are 50, 55, and we adjust to meet the needs of the school.
So when you have some of the teens and the youth from the school, how would you say like extensive just their knowledge is on any of these topics, or like specifically sexual risk avoidance or just sexual, topics? Like how much do they know, and how much are they like really learning about all of this? Like as in they haven't learned much about it either in school, like regular school, or from like their parents?
All of them know something. What they know may not be accurate. A lot of our students spend a great deal of time on social media, especially after the last 2 years. Students have become very electronic, and they even talk to each other when they're in the same room via their cell phones. So they all know something. I would say that the juniors and seniors that are the mentors definitely know a bit more. A lot of them have had some sort of relationship or are in a current relationship. Most of the freshmen, I would say maybe 25% of them are either in or have been in some sort of relationship that was more than just walking down the hall and holding hands. That said, there is a number of students that have already, by their freshman year, been sexually active. We are primarily focused this year in Lake County, but we also have done our program in Porter and LaPorte County as well. The students also, we see a difference based on where we're operating the program. I would say that our students in Lake County are a bit more advanced in their knowledge and their activities and their behaviors than the students that we have worked with in some of the other counties around here. But that's not to put a negative light on anyone. They come from a different background and they have different experiences, as we all do. A number of the students in Lake County, they've had to grow up a bit faster and they've had to be more responsible for themselves, their siblings, and other family members earlier on. So I think a lot of them, just through life experience, have a bit more of that in their lives than some of the other students that we've worked with in the past.
So when we're talking about Relentless, you've talked about the financial program, but those are just programs that are put on by PATH. PATH in itself is a whole organization. So could you tell us a little bit? Well, actually, before we go there, because I'd like our listeners to know a little bit more about PATH in general. But before we go there, I believe when I was checking out, preparing for this podcast today, I was looking on the website, and it looks like this program, the Relentless program, is something that is able to be duplicated in other school systems. Like, is it available for purchasing, or if somebody wanted to utilize it, like say they're in South Carolina listening to this episode and they're like, this sounds like something we need in our schools. How did they get that from you guys?
So the Relentless program is not currently available for purchase, but the idea is that once we go through this rigorous evaluation of the curriculum, and we have got four more years. We just completed year one. Once we're done and we have all of our results in, then yes, we plan to be able to make this available for purchase to be used in other schools and programs. We do currently have a curriculum that's available for purchase. It is not the mentoring program. There's a program called Positive Potential that went through a very similar experience that we are right now, being evaluated. And Positive Potential has curriculum for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and they are 5-day curriculums, and they build on one another. However, if a school district only wants to do 8th grade, they can only do one grade level, but they are designed to do 6th, then 7th, and then 8th. And the material keeps getting more in-depth and more intimate per the grade levels. And it goes through similar topics that Relentless does, but at an age-appropriate level. They don't go into as much on things like dating violence like we do in Relentless. They do talk, 6th grade is more focused on personal value and legacy and knowing that you yourself are an important being, and the basic foundations of relationships. And all three, and including Relentless, we focus on the success sequence for just life in general. So going to school and getting an education, then getting a job, then being in a serious relationship, then marriage, and then having children. And that sequence of events has shown over time that individuals are going to be more satisfied in life, and they're going to be higher income earners later down the line. Not that they'll all be millionaires, but if you work your way through that sequence in life, that you'll find more success and more happiness.
That's interesting. Where did you guys learn about the success sequence? That's a mouthful.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure exactly where it originates from. It was introduced to me when I started working for PATH. I hadn't heard that terminology for it, but I had heard that sequence of events being a good way to be successful and happy in life. But we get some of our curriculums, and we do a lot of webinars and trainings through an organization called the Dibble Institute. And that is what they build things off of, and they talk about a great deal of as well.
And so the process that you guys are going through with Relentless and that you've gone through, I'm sorry, can you tell me the name of this program as well?
Positive Potential.
Positive Potential. So that rigorous progress, does this mean that you would be considered evidence-based at the end of
Correct.
Okay. And so just for those listening, what evidence-based is, evidence-based means that you have kind of like what Stephanie's been talking about, there's this rigorous process, but it means that you can show through demonstration over a period of time that your program is effective and that it's creating certain outcomes that you're stating it's creating. And perhaps Stephanie, you can maybe give a little more detail on that than I can, since we haven't done anything like that here. But so evidence-based is kind of like the standard. If you're doing prevention, if you're doing grant work, they almost always want you at this point to do evidence-based. So you're
Yes.
working on that.
So at the end of the day, for Relentless, we want to show that our program has created a shift in thinking for the students that we're working with. So we start every program with a pre-survey before we do any staff mentoring pairings, any content or curriculum. Nothing has been delivered to the students. The very first thing they do is a pre-survey, and that is administered by IT Mesa, which is the evaluation company that is overseeing this portion of our grant, I should say those pieces of our grant. So they create the survey based on our curriculum, and there's also certain types of questions and content that they have to ask because of the type of grant that we're operating under. So we're looking for a shift for this particular program in students' thoughts, values, decisions on what types of behaviors they would have when it comes to relationships and their choices in sexual activity. We want to show that our curriculum is allowing students to have the knowledge and resources to make healthier choices for themselves. And at the end of the day, we're hoping that those choices are for them to postpone any initial or future sexual activity until they are in a committed long-term relationship, ideally in marriage.
So we're here on Matters of Substance today, and our our main thing that we work to prevent is substance use. So how does this all kind of tie back to the prevention of substance use? I mean, definitely we're talking, I think we can all, just from understanding some of the elements we're talking about, we can all understand how this might reduce sexually transmitted diseases and things like that, which are health risks. But also, how can we tie it back to substance use disorder and how we're helping prevent with these mentoring programs?
So we do an entire session on alcohol, tobacco, and other substances. And that session is designed to educate students on primarily alcohol, tobacco, nicotine, so smoking and vaping, and marijuana are the three that we focus on because those are the most commonly used by this age group. And we give them the information and the facts about those substances. And we also talk about how those can impact the choices that we make going forward. And they can increase our likelihood of having risky behaviors, impulsive behaviors, even if we hadn't planned on them. That we also tie it in throughout our curriculum that it increases and raises our chances of contracting sexually transmitted diseases and infections. It raises our chances of an unplanned pregnancy. And when we have these things potentially at risk for us, it also impacts other choices that we make in our relationships. It impacts choices that we make in our personal goals and future things that we want to attain, whether it be jobs or relationships or even just living in an apartment versus a home someday, or being able to buy a used car versus a new car. All the choices that we make now as teenagers can impact what happens and the choices that we have available to us as adults. And most of our lessons tie the use of substances into how that can impact that topic. Substances impact our social emotional well-being. They impact and raise our risk of being potentially having suicidal ideations. They raise our chances of being in an unhealthy, potentially violent relationship. So we tie substance abuse and use into all of our topics.
I think as kind of like the leading agency here that's trying to do prevention specifically around substance use, I can say that we appreciate that there's those elements in other programs as well, because we can't touch every school, every student. Of course, we just don't have that capacity, you know. And so the fact that we have like those elements through our partners as well occurring, it makes such a difference if we're all kind of on the same page, offering these pieces of prevention. And when we're giving our programs, if we can offer some of those pieces that you guys focus on as well, you know, it helps our community as a whole if we're all kind of working towards the same goal and working together is really, you know, kind of what I'm trying to get at, I guess, is when we're working together, it makes a difference. And it's pretty amazing that you guys are active with 16 schools. And I hear that, you know, it's primarily in Lake County right now, but I know in the past you guys have had pretty big, you've had a lot going on in Porter County as well. And I don't know what the shift was, but I can say at least for us when the pandemic hit, I know it kind of created a little bit of challenge surrounding some of our programming. And so I would not be surprised if that's part of the reason that maybe there's a little bit of a barrier for you all right now. But I find it very interesting that you have a few programs that kind of go over a few different things, you know, so you have your Relentless, you have the one with trying to get successful life outcomes, and you have your financial literacy one. These are all such important topics. And if we're not teaching our students, our youth, you know, we're setting them up for not failure, but for hardship for sure. So it's just, I think it's wonderful that you guys are looking at an entire picture here. It's not just, you know, we're only going to talk about this and this, it's only important that they know how to have a healthy relationship. And we know that's not true. The more skills, the more tools we can build in total, the better off they are, the better chance they have.
Yeah.
And we have other programs that work with other grade levels. We have Love Notes that works with 10th grade, working to talk about similar topics that Relentless does, but not in a mentoring capacity. It's the Path and Health educators using a set curriculum that we purchased and delivering that to 10th grade. And they talk about a lot of the similar topics that we do in Positive Potential and Relentless, but again, age appropriate. We also have Horizons, which works with middle school students as well. And we have grants that are through OJJ, the Office of Juvenile Justice, and we are working with Lake County Juvenile Detention Center, and we work with Porter County Juvenile Detention Center. At Lake County, the health educators there are working with teens that are currently incarcerated. At Porter County, I actually do the programming there, and these are students that, they're participants. They're fulfilling their parole off their PO hours by coming to assigned classes based on what their parole officers assign them to. So we have a variety of topics that span over the course of 12 months, and we actually do the substance abuse topic 6 times in those 12 months, sometimes more. So that's the topic that gets assigned the most. The rest of the topics are just once a year. We don't know, as PATH staff, we don't know why any of these individuals are being assigned to our classes or they're incarcerated, but we do go in and we also educate them on similar and same topics that we go into the schools and educate on. These individuals made a choice that unfortunately got them in trouble, And so the idea is to help educate them so that they can make a healthier choice going forward when they have that opportunity. Or in case of, in regards to like the individuals I work with at Porter County, so that they don't end up making a choice that lands them in jail versus getting court assigned to do classes. So, and then we have another OJJ grant that's called Life Lanes that's new to us this year. And that one is focused on the opioid pandemic and helping to educate teens to avoid having that in their lives and having that be an impact for them and to reduce the use of opioids overall. So those are the primary programs at PATH. We do have one other mentoring program. It's called Live True, and that one is focused on after-school programming. And so the individual that runs that, she partners with a couple of schools and then other facilities like Boys and Girls Club or YMCAs or things like that, and goes in and does and she's the mentor for the participants, and they're usually upper middle school students that are in that program. And that one is not a little unlike Relentless. There is a series of sessions. However, if you're not there for all of them, they can stand alone, those lessons, so that the individuals aren't like, wait, what's going on when they come to the next one.
Oh, that's nice. So it's not like a building block. Like you can just take that information away and feel comfortable knowing. That's good.
Yes.
You guys have so many more programs than I even realized you all had. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, goes to show why you all just had an open house for a new facility. We came to that I think it was last week, was it? Or the week before?
The week before, yeah.
Beautiful new facility. And just seeing the size of what you need to compensate for what you have going on, it speaks to how much success you guys have in the community. And I absolutely love that your location is right across from the high school now. I'm like, oh, how perfect.
So do we, because we work with that high school, and gas is a little expensive right now, so we can just walk across the street for that one. But yeah, that's one of the schools that we do our either the mentor. We did the Relentless program there in the past, and we're looking to have them as part of our program going forward this year.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm from that town, so yay, good job.
Yes, and that's a really big high school, and we've had some really good success with the mentor-mentee relationship there. And that is one school that when the pandemic hit here, we were currently doing program with them, with other schools, and fortunately, all of our schools were very willing to transition with us. We were able to, within a matter of just a couple of weeks, go virtual with all of our students for all of our programs. The Relentless program remained live. Some of the other programs pre-recorded their lessons so that the schools that were using them could incorporate them into their online portals and classrooms that they were using. But Relentless remained alive, and we ran our programming either via Zoom or Google Meets. And we still met with our mentors online, and then the mentors and mentees met online. It didn't have the same impact as being in person. Nothing ever really does, but we were able to still continue. And even the following year, we did it completely 100% virtual.
Wow.
So we continued working with schools. We continued working with students. I know from our project officer that not all programs were able to transition and be virtual, and had to drop out of their grants or take a pause and pick up later. We were very fortunate to continue forward and have schools that wanted us to do that and wanted us to still be in their students' activities and lives. And we were very blessed during the pandemic to actually grow as an organization and bring on more programming and be able to impact the lives of more students.
It shows the connection you have in the community to see that you guys were able to overcome probably one of the hardest times for people who offered programs to the community, to see that you guys were able to overcome and grow, and to still have the schools like, yes, please, we need you. That just shows that you guys have developed some really great relationships there. And I'm glad for that, because, the pandemic was a hard time for our youth here. We needed to not take resources that, they had away and enhance them. And that's, unfortunately, it was very challenging in that time. But, hopefully we're on the other end of that now, and we can start looking forward to, getting the things that we maybe had to pause on, or that we were doing a little differently than how we would have preferred. Maybe we can get back to those, the ways that we did it before, and use things we learned to help.
The pandemic was definitely hard on the teens that we're working with. And we saw that out of them, and we heard that out of them. During the pandemic, we used Remind for both mentors and mentees to allow for more communication. When we're in person, we typically just do the mentors. But because we did that and we expanded the Remind use to mentors and mentees, it opened up some lines of communication that maybe wouldn't have been there previously, or without that. And because of that, we actually we were able to step in and help a number of students that were in need, whether that be because they didn't have food in their homes, or they didn't have toiletries, or in a couple of cases, we had a few students who were contemplating death by suicide, and they reached out to their mentors, or other mentors reached out to each other. And because of that, then the mentors reached out to us as peer mentor coaches, and we were able to step in and help provide the resources that those individuals needed to help them get over those emotional hurdles that they were facing at that time, because so many kids were now not in their safest place, because unfortunately, home is not always the safest place for every kid. And school is what they were relying on for 2 meals a day, and a safe place and social interaction, and not just the academics. And so the pandemic was very, very hard on the teens that we work with. And that, being the organization that we are and having that stand in the community, the kids have heard of us, and they've heard of us through other students in the school, and they knew that they could trust us. And I think that's one of the most important pieces that we have with the teens that we work with through the Relentless program, is because we build community with them, we build a sense of trust. And so then when they need things, whether it be help to fill out an application, or something as serious as someone that they know or they themselves are considering death by suicide, they come to us for resources.
Caitlin and I were actually just talking about this before you came over today, because we also had an episode that we recorded yesterday with the LGBTQ outreach group here in Porter County. And one of the things we were discussing is homes not always being the safe place for youth. And that's just a hard concept to even, take in. And so I'm just so thankful that you have that relationship within the school systems, because we need our students to know that they have an outlet if they need it, that they have someone or an agency they can reach out to if they don't have food, or if they don't have deodorant or toothpaste. That's an unfortunate reality of at least the areas we live in. I think it's probably true across all of the United States that they have some families in this situation. And so I just, I appreciate so much that you guys have built those relationships, and that you are a safe place and leaders that youth can look to if needed. It's so important.
Well, and during the pandemic, I know some of these kids were put in a situation they'd never been in before, because all of a sudden one or both of their parents no longer had the job to bring in the support that was traditionally there for them. or parents got sick, or in some cases, we had some students who lost a parent or a guardian or someone else who was living in their home due to COVID. And so it really changed the home dynamic overall.
Yeah. Well, we are coming to the end of our episode today. We've only got a few more minutes here. So is there anything else, Stephanie, that you want to impart to our listeners? Maybe share your guys' contact information in case somebody has questions about how these programs or how they can get their students involved in Lake Porter or LaPorte County. That would be really great.
So PATH is located in Portage, Indiana, and you can find us on positiveteenhealth.org. And we are also on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, because that's the one our kids are favorites of. And imparting just our kids are important. Whether you have children of your own or not, the youth that we interact with every day are important to us, but they're also important to all of the community. And we need them and they need us. So we want to make sure that we are providing them with accurate information so that they can have education and knowledge, give them power to make choices. And without that, you feel like you don't have choices. And so we want to make sure that we're giving the youth that we work with every advantage that we possibly can, and every choice is available to them to make as well going forward, and that they have healthy, positive futures and that they can achieve the goals that they have set for themselves.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that as a listener, you really understand the all the information that was provided, and that you reach out to PATH. They're there, and they've got some great things going on. And certainly, if you're in the areas that they service and you have a student who you think just could benefit from this, which, let's be honest, every topic there is a topic that we need to make sure our students are educated on. Reach out to them. So thank you so much, Stephanie. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I had a good time.
Thanks.